Hello there, in this video I'm going to be reviewing the Radioddity ATS200, which is a really compact yet feature-packed multiband radio that even includes Airband and Bluetooth. And I want to give a big thank you to Radioddity for sending this over to me for review. And I also want to apologize to these guys because they sent it to me ages ago, but I've been moving house and everything else in between, and it's taken me so long. But I've been using it and I've been loving it. Now, I just want to say that even though it's been sent to me free of charge for review, if you've seen my other reviews, you'll know that I don't hold back. If there's something that needs calling out, I'll do it and I'll show it. So in this video, I'm going to do a teardown, as I usually do. And then I'm going to have some fun with the hardware. Can you work out what I'm doing here? Well, you'll soon find out. And then I'm going to do a functional review. Now, in the video, you're going to see me use a desk stand for this radio. So at the end, I will tell you a bit about the desk stand, how you can download one for free and print it at home if you have a 3D printer. Or if you don't, I'm also going to show you how you can connect to our friends at PCBWay and get them to print one for you. So let's kick off with the key features of this radio. Now, like so many other radios in this class, it features at its heart a SI4732 multiband radio chip. So you can imagine that most of the specifications around the receiving frequencies and demodulation modes are identical. So for shortwave, it goes from 1.7 megahertz up to 30 megahertz and covers the AM, upper sideband, lower sideband, and CW demodulation modes. It also covers FM all the way down to 64 megahertz and up to 108 megahertz and includes a stereo decoder and support for RDS. It also covers long wave, 153 kilohertz up to half a meg, and medium wave or AM from 520 kilohertz up to 1.7 megahertz. And in addition to all that, it covers the Airband, 118 megahertz to 138 megahertz. Now you might be saying, well, hang on a minute, Pete, how does it do that? Because it uses an SI4732 that doesn't cover that band. Well, that's because it includes a built-in frequency down converter, which converts the Airband range into a range which is receivable by the SI4732. And we'll have a look at that and have a bit of fun with that a bit later. Another interesting thing about this, even though it's really compact, it contains a whopping, poke your eye out, 32-inch telescopic antenna. Well, it's 82 centimeters for those of you in the metric world. It also includes Bluetooth 5.3 in glorious stereo. It's really well built, as we'll have a look at in a minute. It's got a 2.4-inch touchscreen, USB-C charging. Oh, and did I say how compact it was? So without further ado, let's have a look at it. So it comes in a humble plain brown box, and there's a USB-C charging cable. Nicely bright coloured strap. Not that I ever use them. It's like well packed. Not going to get damaged. It's really small. Really small. You'd have to hold it to see how thin it is. And that lovely cool feeling of the aluminium extrude casing. That's really nice, actually. Yeah, I am surprised how small it is. Let's switch it on. And you think, oh, here we are. Actually, I like that screen. It's a little bit shiny for my liking, but it's okay. But the contrast is good, which kind of makes up for it. Now, although this is branded under Raddy, it's clearly a Malahit factory product, the same as the ATS20, the ATS25, blah, blah, blah. You can see the commonality there. It's got an extruded aluminium body, PCBs used for the front and back panels, speaker grills identical, and actually the software, when you look at it, in the ATS200, as you'll see, is very similar to the ATS25. This is almost like a handheld version of the ATS25, but with Airband, as we'll see. So the ATS200 is the latest in an evolution of handheld ATS series receivers. It all started off with the ATS100, which is a ESP32 microprocessor based radio with, as I mentioned before, the SI4732 chip, and it only had a small color display. Then we had the hugely improved ATS120 with a massive 2.4-inch display, touchscreen and improved software similar to the ATS25. We then had the ATS120 Pro, which added additional hardware and software capable of decoding CW, and it had Wi-Fi also. And then branching off the ATS120, we had the ATS200, which we're reviewing today, which added Airband. So let's take a first look at the hardware. So first of all, you notice that at the top you've got a PCB for the top panel, and then you've got a tiny little charge LED, and then you've got the torch LED there, and then you've got a jack which is both FM antenna and headphone or earphone. Lovely knob, very nice, feels good. And then we've got a built-in telescopic antenna. This is huge, apparently 32 inches. It's massive compared with the size of the radio. Nicely balanced though. How is that for balance? Very good. That's amazing actually. I didn't think it'd be that big. Feels nice in the hand, I've got to say. What's this at the bottom? Alright, so then we got a jack for a ferrite rod antenna or an external antenna connected via jack. Pretty standard stuff. I would expect it to have that. I tell you what, it really is thin. I don't want these two little holes I thought. Is that for the strap? How'd you get your strap in there? I don't know. You do get a sense of well thought out design. Let's compare it to some other radios. So next to a crankshank, you see it's actually longer than crankshank, but look how thin it is. This is a crankshank fitted with a heavy duty battery, by the way. This is not your regular crankshank. Actually, maybe I should show you one which is a regular battery. Hang on. Just bought one actually. Another one. I've got to stop buying these. I can't stop buying them. Every time there's a different flavour comes out, I buy another one. I need counselling, I think. Hang on, give me a moment. I love the smell of new radios. Right, okay, so here's your regular crankshank. This is a little bit thicker, the crankshank, and shorter. Gives you some idea. And next to the famous XT Data 808. Now let's compare it next to one of these mini ESP32 radios. Here we go. So I think that gives you another good sense of the size of the ATS200. Look, they're the same thickness. Yeah, look at that. The only problem is you've got that big knob sticking out of the mini ESP32. So, you know, if you want to just slide it into the pocket of your tight pants or your jeans, the knob's going to be a problem. Whereas the AST200 will just slip straight in. Let me know what you think in the comments. And you still got that antenna jack on the side as well. So there you go. Let's have a look at the manual for ATS200. As you go through this, you'll probably agree with me, it's a bit lightweight. let's just go through. You can see that, okay, he's got a kind of introduction of specification of features and what's in the box. Yeah, whatever. Getting started. I was basically switching it on and charging it. And then it just gives kind of like a couple of sentences or one sentence for each of the functions. So I can't help thinking it's a bit lightweight, to be honest. But it is quite intuitive to use, so maybe not such a biggie. Frequencies of some summer stations, that's not really useful. And the tech specs. So yeah, not a great manual. Now on to my favourite bit, the teardown. So bear with me for a moment. Let's get this thing open. Now look at how clean this is. Beautiful PCB, and look how few wires there are. Now, talking of beautiful PCBs, I'd just like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. PCBWay are my go-to for prototyping of PCBs. Simply upload your Gerber files, put in the parameters and quantities, and you get a quote instantly. In addition, they do PCB assembly, flex rigid PCBs, HDI PCs, CNC machining, and 3D printing. For more information, go to PCBWay.com, and I'll leave a link in the description. Now, breaking this down, the yellow items are in the original ATS120 of our Airband. And then this color over here represents the items which are added for Airband, and I'll take you through these. So at the heart, we got the ESP32 microprocessor unit, which is a highly capable and versatile microprocessor. And then at the heart of the radio section, we've got, of course, the 4732 DSP IC, which is shortwave FM and so on. And then we've got a mono 3-watt amplifier for the speaker, the 800A. And then the top panel contains the Bluetooth antenna and also the headphone jack and USB charge socket and rotary encoder. And then we got a socket here for the Bluetooth module, which I've removed for clarity. And then we've got a stereo headphone amplifier. Remember, the FM capability is also stereo, which is the PT2308. Then we got this mystery chip, which has had the markings obliterated. It probably contains keys or something stopping it from the software from being copied. And then we got the USB to TTL converter, the XPT2046, which is the touchscreen interface IC. And then we got the Jelly Bean 4056 lithium ion battery charge IC. So it's not a fast charging PD charging device. And then we've got the Airband component. So we've got the MS3551, which is a variable frequency oscillator, or a VFO, controlled by the microprocessor. I'll come to that a bit later. We've then got a RF mixer, the SA602A. Again, I will clarify what that's for in a moment. At the bottom there, we got the antenna jack. Then this funny stripy component up here is a ceramic filter. It's an RF bandpass filter. I'll explain a bit more about that in a little bit. And then these little things here are RF switches, RF frequency switches, which can be controlled by the microprocessor to route the RF signal across different parts of the system. So here's a close-up of that Bluetooth board. You can see that there. You see that wire coming out, attaching to the integrated Bluetooth antenna on the top panel. So let's just pull that out, and you can see there, it's quite straightforward. You can see all the connections in there, the connect line, the audio left and right input, and so on. And let's have a look at the battery. So bit of a bugger getting it out, but with a bit of effort. So it's 6.6 watt hour. We'll have a look at how long it's going to last later. When you're taking this thing apart, you have to like unsolder the antenna. Bit of a tip there for you. And then you've got these two little solder joints which actually release the main PCB from the chassis. It's not obvious. And then you've got like this PCB which is kind of like got some silicon holding it in with two metal pins, and then that holds the PCB in place. It's a speaker. But have you noticed how few wires are on here? It's a complete contrast from the RF919 that I reviewed previously, which was just a bird's nest. This thing, you notice hardly any wires at all, so you're reducing the manufacturing costs. The speaker is a bit, you know, it's a bit how you're doing. Tactile buttons there. That one's for the low noise amplifier and keyboard lock. I'll take you through those later. Bluetooth reset button on the right there, and the power button and torch light there. So a few transistors to control the LED for the torch, and your big touchscreen display. So it's a remarkable design in that there's so few wires. Now let's test the power consumption. So I'm just going to put an ammeter in series with the battery. I know it automatically turns on. There, you can hear it turning on. So it takes, let's call it 182 milliamps, right? So first of all, let's convert the 6.6 watt hours to milliamp hours. So that gives us around 1,800 milliamp hours, which is higher than the ATS120, which only had 1,400. So given 182 milliamps, that works out to approximately 9 hours runtime, which is not bad. Now let's look how the down converter works. So allow the SI4732 to listen to Airband. So the 4732 is 150 kilohertz to 30 megahertz AM, or 64 to 108 megahertz FM. Okay. Now Airband, by contrast, is 118 megahertz to 138 megahertz, and the modulation is AM. All right. So the first challenge is what frequency to convert it down to within the SI4732 frequency range. Well, the first thing is we don't want to convert AM to FM, so let's convert it down to the AM band. And just an example, let's say we convert it down to 10 megahertz. Actually, this is a bad one because it's the same frequency as the time signal, of course, but let's just keep it simple and assume it's 10 megahertz for now. So that's good, but we know that the 4732 can pick up 10 megahertz in its shortwave frequency range. Now here's where the magic happens. So you have this variable frequency oscillator, or VFO, controlled by the MPU, and it's tuned to 10 megahertz higher than the frequency that we want to receive. Now 10 megahertz corresponds to the frequency we identified earlier. So then the highest frequency, 138 megahertz, the VFO would tune to 148, again 10 megahertz higher than the frequency we want to receive, but the difference is always 10 megahertz. So the microprocessor talks to the VFO and sets the target frequency of the VFO to be 10 megahertz higher than the frequency we want to receive at airband. Then those two frequencies go through the mixer and magic happens. At 10 megahertz pops out the frequency we want plus some unwanted products. So then we put it through a 10 megahertz filter to filter out the unwanted products and feed it through to the SI4732 at 10 megahertz. So let's see what this difference frequency really is. So I got an oscilloscope hooked up here, and what we're going to do is we're going to set the frequency on the radio, the airband, the frequency we know, like 120 megahertz, which is clearly in the airband. And then what we're going to do is measure the VFO frequency. So let me just get my stuff set up. So there you can see the mixer chip there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect the oscilloscope to the VFO input and measure it. Let me just get a better view for you so you can see the scope and its frequency display at the same time. 1 minute. So you'll see the frequency in the top right hand corner, the VFO frequency. Let's just measure it. Okay, so 130.7 megahertz. If you remember, the frequency we're tuning to is 120, so there's a difference of 10.7 megahertz. That's interesting. Just a bit higher than our example, actually. So let's now put it to a different frequency. Let's say 125 megahertz. Okay, so now the VFO should be 10 megahertz above that. So what's that? That should be 135.7 megahertz for the VFO. Again, keeping a difference of 10 megahertz. And there you can see it, 135.7 megahertz. So that shows that the difference frequency is indeed 10.7 megahertz. So what we can do now, we can use this radio as a down converter for any radio. So we take the output from that ceramic filter, which must be 10.7 megahertz, because that's what we measured the difference frequency to be. And then connect that to the RF input or antenna input of another shortwave radio which can't pick up airband, such as this DX286, and tune it to that frequency, that difference frequency of 10.7 megahertz. We should be able to get it to pick up airband. So let's give it a go. So there you go. I hope you found that interesting. Now, before I start the functional review, I just want to mention that the software used in my version is version 5.2b dark. Now, when I'm making this video, it's March 2025, and any of the bugs you might see during this review may well have been resolved in a later version of software. So please do check what the latest version of software is from Radioddity, and you may find that the issues identified in this review have already been resolved. Okay, so let's have a look at how we operate this. So at the top we've got a rotary encoder with a built-in button, and it feels nice. And then we've got a torch and power button at the top, and then this button controls locking and LNA, and then this button is for Bluetooth. So a short press turns on the torch at the top, and then a long press turns the radio on or off. Wait for it to come up.
Correspondent live from the capital after this summary of the news. BBC News, I'm John Shea. President Macron.
So the sound is pretty good actually. It's better than I expected, having seen the speaker. It's better than the Kwangshan, but not as good as a bigger one, say like X-Data 808 or something like that, of course. Now, this button at the top, as well as being rotating to change values such as frequency or volume, has multiple functions. You give it a short tap, and it's supposed to toggle between volume and squelch and other features according to the mode of the radio. You see it's all seeked there, but I find it a bit temperamental. You get there eventually, but sometimes you feel that the software hasn't responded and you have to press it again. Now this button down here on the left is also multifunction, and it's used to control the locking of the screen and the rotary encoder and the low noise amplifier. So a single short press will lock the screen. So you see the screen's operating now, and I give it a short press, and you see the TL symbol come up by the battery, and now the touch screen is locked. Another short press, it goes off. Now you can see the rotary encoder's working, but if I do a long press, you get RL come up next to the battery, and now the rotary encoder doesn't work. So then you can have both. So this is handy if you're putting it into your tight pants, so you don't inadvertently change the mode of the radio. Now the most important function of this button for me is the double short press. And what that does, it switches on the low noise amplifier, or LNA. So when I do that, you can see that just to the left of the battery symbol, at the bottom left, you will have the LNA symbol come up. Now, I find the radio comes alive when I have the LNA on, so I always have it on when I'm listening to shortwave or Airband or AM. For FM, I live in a really strong signal area, so I don't need it, but I always use it for the AM bands. Now the button on the right is used for Bluetooth pairing. Now let's have a look at the screen layout. So you've got a banner across the top. From left to right, you've got the BFO status, and then you've got the attenuation at AGC. Then you've got the modulation mode, you can see it's AM here. Then you've got the bandwidth, and then you've got the band that it's in, and then the step frequency. Here you've got the frequency readout also shows you the squelch level. And then here you've got your RSSI indicator, and then you've got the volume bar here showing you between 0 and 100%, and then the battery indicator. Now you notice that some of these buttons are highlighted. That means that you can't select them. So if I go into ham, you'll see that the BFO button was highlighted before now becomes unhighlighted. That means you can use it. So if I press the BFO button now, it'll work. There you go. And now I can use the rotary encoder to change the BFO. And you'll notice when I come out of that, the step indicator is highlighted, which means you can't use it in single sideband mode. Okay, and you can see me using the rotary encoder to change the frequency. Let's switch the LNA on, my favourite function. Now, I want to show you something. The BFO can be set for each band, and it remembers it. So I'm on 40 meters, and I set the BFO to 100 hertz. Now let's go into the ham band and go to the, let's say, 30 meters. And let's set the BFO to something else, currently 0. So let's change it. Alright, minus 50 hertz offset. Now let's go back into the 40 meter and check it remembered the BFO for that band. There you are, 100. So that's good. It stores the BFO offset for each band and remembers it. And then you have the mode button, which is enabled, as you can see here, and that sets the demodulation mode. So at the moment on the HF shortwave, I've got the usual upper sideband, lower sideband, carrier wave, and AM. And then ham bands, you've got all the usual ham bands, from 10 meters all the way up to 800. Let's set 20. And then you've got the broadcast bands. Of course, you can see all the usual suspects here. It also has CB and air, you'll notice. So once I've finished going through these menu items, we'll come back and have a listen to some of these and see how they perform. Now, in addition to using the rotary encoder to change frequency, of course, you can bring out the keypad and enter the frequency directly. There you go. So then we have the step button. Now the steps which are available to you depends upon the band that you're in. And then you have the bandwidth. Again, the bandwidth depends upon the band. Then you got AGC on and off. Attenuation. Again, you can use a rotary encoder to change that. So it's kind of like RF gain. And then the mode, which of course is a modulation mode. Again, depends upon the band you're in as to what modulation modes are available. Then mute, volume. Okay, and then onto the next screen. So you've got scan up and down.
Before mining starts, so we can have a productive use for the land.
And then you got this band scanner. Now that's available in all bands except Airband. Some people probably say it's a bit gimmicky. You do a scan first and you can't hear anything, and then you press pause, and then you can tune visually across the peaks like this using the rotary encoder to where the stations are. Of course, the peaks are stations. Is it useful? Well, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Then you got light, which is the backlight. You can again change using the rotary encoder. Squelch. Now, I got a strong signal here, so squelch is not going to be effective, but you get the idea. And then in FM mode, you got RDS, of course. And then you got this, I don't know, I think it's useless. It's a retro function to make it look like an old analog tuner. I mean, it's just gimmicky and it doesn't seem to work very well. The language is only in Italian and I can't find a way to change it. Info, there's some very technical information here. The most important, I think, is the software version at the top there. And then it tells you basically what the settings are at this point in time and the different bandwidths according to the different bands, and memory usage. So a bit technical, not that useful normally. And then we've got this FM mode, which is addition to just selecting FM in the band menu, but it seems to give you more information on RDS. But I found it a bit buggy, so I don't use it. Again, you can see the language is in, I think, Italian. So, not particularly useful. Then we have memo. So this is storing stations to memory. So you just press add, OK, done. That easy. And you can delete them as well using this menu. Now finally, let's go through the setup menu. First of all, you've got the FM range, starting at 64 megahertz in this case. The seek step for AM. Next screen, we got the RDS only FM button. The digit backlight, which changes the graphics of the digits. Memo in preset, of course we want that. Language, retro language, that's for the retro radio function, that kind of pretend analog tuner, which I don't like very much. You've got screensaver related items for helping you save battery life. Vertical screen, that's interesting, I'll come back to that. Remember that band scan application? These are parameters related to that. Don't really use it. Wi-Fi on or off, I can't get Wi-Fi to do anything. I think it's a different model. Batteries show, be put on. Bluetooth, Bluetooth clean to reset your Bluetooth connections. That's pretty much it. But the thing that I find really interesting is the vertical horizontal screen, which I'll show you now. So we go into deselect vertical screen, exit, it'll ask us to save changes. Now look at this. This is interesting. It's down to preference, I guess, whether you like it or not. But now it looks like the ATS25 software or screen layout. I don't know if any of you have got ATS25. Let me know if you think it's similar. Let me know in the comments. But it looks it to me. Okay, let's go back in vertical. So just select the vertical option, exit and save, and then back to normal. So there you go, that's basically how you operate the ATS200. Now let's see how this performs. So first of all, let's start off with Airband. After all, that's the reason I wanted to get the ATS200 in the first place. Now I'm currently in Sydney, central Sydney, in a hotel, and for an antenna I'm using my DIY travel antenna, and that's kind of just propped up in the window behind the curtain. So let's see what we can get.
Cleared direct to Banda. Banda Jetix 3440, can we take up a heading left onto 030 initially just to avoid some weather about 5 miles ahead, Jetix 3440. Jetix 3440 heading as requested. Once you clear direct to Banda, report tracking to Banda. First number 030, we'll do Jetix 3440. Direct to Lovis. Lovis, comma 7220. Jetix 3440 is clear of the weather track direct Banda now. Jetix 3440, thanks.
Well, I've got to say, I'm very pleased with that. I thought it sounded very clear. Squelch is working well. It's fast and responsive. So yeah, very pleased with that. Right, now let's try and do AM. So first of all, I'm just going to try with the telescopic antenna. You notice that when I'm just using a telescopic antenna, if you hold it, it's not too bad, but as soon as you let go, it seems to lose the signal. So that's not so good. But it doesn't have a built-in ferrite rod antenna, so it's looking to work with a telescopic antenna and some sort of earth, I guess. So let's try with a plug-in ferrite rod antenna and that antenna connection at the bottom. Wow, what a difference. It comes alive when you put the external ferrite rod antenna, and it's less noisy. And it's not impacted by not touching the case. So obviously, if you really want to use this for AM, I think you really need that external antenna, which isn't supplied, unlike the RF919. So Radioddity, I think you should really supply the ferrite rod antenna for this. Kind of a weird stand, but there you go.
National Tiles Tileworks members can make up to $50,000 per year more than non-members. It's a game changer. National Tiles Tileworks tilers get free premium adhesives and grouts delivered free, plus monthly cash rebates.
Let's try long wave. I don't know if you get long wave in Australia. Let's find out. I imagine it'd be good for long distance over the outback, but maybe not. No, it doesn't look like there's anything down here in Australia on long wave. Well, that's AM. So yeah, you definitely need the external ferrite rod antenna. Now I want to show you how shortwave performance is. I'm generally pleased with shortwave performance, but then again, you're not expecting it to be any different from all the other receivers in this class with a SI4732 chip. So no surprises. So, but anyway, let's have a bit of a listen to some single sideband. I'm currently in my apartment in Singapore, kind of 6 floors up, and the antenna is a DIY mag loop antenna which I've got placed horizontally on the table next to me. And the audio is coming from the Jabra Bluetooth speaker to the right, which of course I've got connected via Bluetooth. So let's see what we get.
Gitu. Demikian, saya namanya amatir, kita saling berbagi. Begitu, tidak menggurui. Demikian, ganti. Betul, Mas, betul. Itulah namanya amatir. Begitu, Lepeman. Oke, Lepeman, terima kasih banyak, Lepeman. Saya coba cari-cari ini dulu. Cari kondenser dulu, Lepeman. Ataukah yang saya pakai tadi kondensernya tidak bagus atau gimana? Saya coba cari dulu, Lepeman. Tapi tadi keramiknya saya kasih ini, Lepeman. Saya kasih keramik tadi 103.
So shortwave performance is good, though I must say you do need to put on the low noise amplifier. I tend to do that by default. So for shortwave operation, no complaints. Now I would like to bring up a few quirks. The first one is when you plug in an external antenna into the antenna jack at the bottom, it doesn't disconnect the telescopic antenna. But why is that a problem? Well, imagine you're trying to use a loop antenna to eliminate noise, and you've got the telescopic antenna up, which is picking up a load of noise. It mixes the two together. So unless you put the telescopic antenna down, then you're still going to get the noise from the telescopic antenna, even though you've plugged the mag loop in. This is unusual and a bit of a negative for this radio, although as long as you know about it and you just have to put the telescopic antenna down, then it's not a big issue. Let me just show you. So here I've got the telescopic area down, and I've got it in a docking station which connects to a mag loop antenna. And I've got it tuned to a weak station, which you can just hear with the mag loop. So I'll unmute it. Now when I pull the antenna up, I lose the station for interference. You listen. So you can hear that noise now from the telescopic. So put the telescopic bit down and it's okay. Do that again. So it almost completely lost it. There you go. But as long as you know about it, as long as you know about it, it's not a problem. Now the next problem relates to saving airband frequencies into memory. So here's an airband frequency, should be 119.3, and then I go to add, and look what it does. It stores the intermediate frequency of 10.7 megahertz, which is the difference frequency between the target frequency you want to listen to and the VFO, as you would have seen when I explained how the down converter works in the early part of the video. So what were these developers thinking? I've no idea. They should of course stored the VFO information. I did speak to Radioddity about this. They're aware of the issue, but unfortunately they don't know when there's going to be a fix out. But they were very helpful about it. So let's see. Please, let's have a fix for this soon. Now I want to show you the stand that I designed for this, which by the way you can download and print yourself. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So you'll notice it's got kind of a long base on it, kind of stretches out a long way. The reason for that is when the antenna's up, because it's so big, 32 inches, if you don't have that, it falls over when you push the touchscreen. So that's why it's extended at the bottom, to give it that stability. I'll just show you. All the way up, 32 inches of goodness, and you see it's stable. And this stand's also compatible with the ATS100, 120, 120 Pro, and of course this 200. Now you'll notice also a kind of a channel running down the back, if you can see that, and that is to allow you to have a antenna jack plugged into the bottom and still insert it into the stand. So let me just show you. Plug it in there. And there you are. Bob's your uncle. So that's why it's got that height to it as well, to accommodate the jack at the bottom. There you have it. Now if you print one of these, be sure to put some sticky rubber feet on the bottom like I have. Stop it sliding around. Now if you want one of these and you have a 3D printer at home, in the description I will put a link to my page on PCBWay Plus, and at the bottom of the page here you can see you've got a download link, so you're free to download and print to your heart's content. If you don't have a 3D printer, you can simply add one to the cart and get PCBWay to print and send you one. And I'd also like to give a call out to Paul at Oscar Mike 0 Echo Tango. Now he's done some amazing videos on the predecessor, the ATS120. And one particular video that will probably catch your eye is the ATS120 Awesome Modifications, because in that video Paul talks about how you can get software which is custom software that provides I think a waterfall and CW decoding and some other cool features, but it's not free. I think it's subscription or you pay your license. So do check Paul's channel out. He has some fantastic videos if you're getting into the hobby. Okay, I'm going to bring this review to a close now. I think overall it's a good product and I like it, and I have been taking it everywhere with me. But let's just reflect a bit on the negatives for a moment. First of all, I think the manual's very brief. I think it could have been a lot better, but then again the software is quite intuitive and easy to use. The issue about the telescopic aerial not being disconnected when you plug in the antenna jack at the bottom is a weird one, but as long as you know about it, it doesn't cause you an issue because you just put the antenna down. The biggest issue, I think, is the inability for the software to store airband frequencies. that one is a surprising boo-boo. I'm surprised that got past their test, but I'm hopeful for a software upgrade. It doesn't have a built-in ferrite rod antenna, which means it can be noisy if you're trying to listen to AM or medium wave on the built-in telescopic antenna. It really should be supplied with the ferrite rod antenna, I think, if you want to use it for AM or medium wave. I think that covers all of the negatives. On the positive side, I love the touch screen. It's a nice size, easy to read, and responsive. I also like the construction quality. I think it's really well made, and it feels like a quality product when you hold it in your hand. I mean, it's got good performance, good battery life, and the support from Radioddity is been excellent, as it's always been. And nice to use on SSB as well. Great Airband reception, really clear. The audio quality is not bad actually for something of that size, and the Bluetooth to boot. So I use the Bluetooth a lot as well to connect to my headphones, which is one of the other reasons I always choose it when I'm going away, to throw it in the bag. So I wouldn't hesitate to recommend this radio, but just be aware of its little quirks. So as usual, in the description I'll leave more information, including links to where you can purchase one of these radios if you want one. And I'll also leave the links to the desk stand so that you can download and print one of those as well if you've got a 3D printer. So as always, I really appreciate you watching. Please do subscribe if you found it interesting, and take care, and I look forward to the next video. Bye-bye.
Masih memanggil rakan-rakan dari Sabah dan Sarawak. Dari Sabah dan Sarawak. Di sini naik market roller tadi ATS malam ini. Standing by. Okay, final call, calling security.